So I just put out this video called 3 Ways Using Design Methods Will Improve Your Creative Work. And I want to get into a little bit more granular about what that means and how it works out. Welcome to the MVA Daily Vlog. I'm Joshua Hardesty, live from Minneapolis. It's raining. It is Sunday. I have a headache, but we're going to do this. So the first claim that I make is that using a rigid system will actually make your work more original. So how exactly does that work? The first thing I would have to say is, in my opinion, a system is going to be the result of a theory, and that you're going to test the theory through the system. So if you have a theory about a way to work, then a system is essentially a way of proving that that does or doesn't work. And then you either realize your theory is just plain wrong, or you adjust the system until it fortifies what that theory is, which then of course has the effect of making you believe in it more and have more faith in it. Like the theory being almost like a philosophy. 2 things I will point out. When I started investigating using methods for designing, meaning not getting a brief and then doing a random hodgepodge of research and ideation and brainstorming and sketching and different ways of initially investigating form or typography or whatever, my initial interest in investigating it was just that I felt like the steps I was taking between kicking off a project and showing the first round to the client, it wasn't rigorous. So I didn't necessarily think the work was bad. I just felt like it wasn't rigorous, and that maybe I didn't know what the fuck I was doing because I couldn't describe what I was doing. So on each individual project, I could describe to you what I did. But on the grand overarching theme of work, I couldn't tell you what I was doing because every single project was different, which is actually like status quo for designers. And it's not bad necessarily. It's just that I came to a place where I just thought, I don't know what I'm doing. So the initial steps that I took was that the very next project I did, I knew I was going to investigate these bed node diagrams, and that I would do a couple of things on the path to doing them. I knew I would do pencil sketches to investigate the results of the mashing up of the ideas, and I set a rule that I would do each thing longer than I needed to. And instead of doing enough research to have an idea and then having enough ideas to make a sketch and then making enough sketches to get on the computer, instead I had big blocks of time, and then those should have been overkill. So I did more research than I needed to, more ideation than I needed to, more sketching than I needed to. And basically what would happen is, like, you start with a lot and you work your way down to a little bit, and then you make your comps or your whatever it is you show the client. To me, that the idea behind that was that it would be rigorous. The other things that came out of that were unexpected. I didn't honestly expect that my work would change. I just thought I would investigate more. But what I found pretty much immediately within 2 or 3 projects was what I was doing was leaps and bounds better than anything I had done before. So if we come back, that's a long-winded way of saying originality was an unexpected side effect of doing this, but now I found it to be quite true. How does the system manifest originality? Well, the first thing is that I believe in the system, and I believe in, like, philosophically what the system needs to do. So if I'm doing the Typographer Method, which I'll put a link below, the way I work, the way the MVA studio works is we have 4 methods for doing projects. Those methods are chosen based off of context, budget, client disposition, and timeline. If I'm doing the Typographer Method, that first stage of working is type-only layouts. The mental space that I need to be in is, the goal is to figure out what the words and the content want to do, and the way that I do that is by making as much stuff as is humanly possible. So what I'm trying to do is take whatever words are in the book cover, the record cover, the layout for that page, and I want to push it around and look at it in tons of fonts, uppercase and lowercase, tons of spatial arrangements, tons of size contrasts, things butted up against each other, large graphical backgrounds, whatever. I want to cover a lot of ground. Because of that, I end up with what I would say is unexpected results, because my goal is not to sit down and say, I feel like an appropriate visual outcome for this project is a sort of classical arrangement, but it's modern, so I will switch the fonts to Locator. No, I just copy the words in and then start looking at fonts and looking at what the type might want to do, and then getting an idea about something. But essentially I'm trying to work intuitively and based on, whoa, that's cool. And every time I hit that whoa, that's cool moment, what I want to do is take that artboard or that page, duplicate it, and do something new. I'm not trying to make a finished product. I'm just trying to resolve whatever idea emerges through that kind of gestural discovery process. So you can imagine if I sit down and say, I want to do that classical thing with a modern twist, then I'm making a very specific thing, and all my actions are going to go towards executing on that idea. That slows me way down, and as far as I'm concerned, there's an opportunity cost, which is, what are all the things that I can't imagine with my rational mind that could have shown up if I let go of that idea? So as I work through that process, I might end up making decisions and stumbling upon something and being like, oh, this looks like that, and then getting into a space where I make something that is referential or that has a certain style or a certain vibe. And I'm fine with that. To me, the crime is if I sit down and say, this needs to look like this. That's the exact opposite of what I'm trying to do with that method. What I'm trying to do is investigate the words as a form of research. So in my mind, when I do the typographer method, I'm not in the ideation or sketching phase. I'm actually in the research phase, but I'm researching visual outcomes for the words, if that makes sense. And then I do that 3 different ways. Then I start to jam that stuff together. That to me is the ideation phase. It may or may not get conceptual a week or 2 days or 3 weeks down the road, but in the moment of working on those type-only layouts, the goal is not to do type-only layouts that look like whatever other type-only layouts there are in the world. The goal is just to exhaust possibilities. So that's one way. So it's not enough to say the system is do type-only layouts, because it defeats the purpose if I do the type-only layouts and I've got 2 Swiss layouts and 2 of the shit the kids do with the Euro style layouts and 2 classical layouts and 2 David Carson-esque layouts. That defeats the entire purpose. My mind has to be based on see what these words and letters can do, and do a lot of it and work fast in a number of little sprints. And don't worry about whether any of this is usable in the final outcome, because you're going to do 3 more phases technically to figure out what it is you're going to make. And then furthermore, if you make something and you're like, oh man, that's awesome, it doesn't matter. Now all you know is you have this confidence that the other 2 phases, there's even less pressure on them to produce results, because you've already got stuff that's rad. That's actually 2 of the ways that it works. So you get the process and the mindset together, and that's how I think the originality comes out of it. And then on top of that, by working in phases, instead of working in phases of refinement, first draft, second draft, third draft, I have no drafts, or I have 1,000 drafts. It depends on how you look at it. But the phases thing then means that I constantly go, oh, that could solve the problem, that could solve the problem, that could solve the problem. Instead of, okay, here's my 2 ideas or my 3 ideas or my 5 ideas, and I continuously make them better. I'm not worried about that, not in this kind of methodology. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm happy to talk about this more. I think now that I've made this video, it might make sense to then address how do the methods at play, like in the producer method and in the conceptor method, how does that accomplish the same goals? Because they're different and they also require a different mindset. Check out the notes below. Go check out our methods. I mean, the page is set up for a client to read it and understand what we're about, but I delineated the processes specifically so designers could read it and see if there's anything they can steal from it. Thanks a lot. Take it easy.